So this is Tech Talk Session 5. There was some discussion about what it was called. We went through several versions, but we finally settled on this. Today what we're going to talk about is, I'm going to open up with some data storage, some information about what our current data storage capacity is, what the state of it is, how we manage it, and all that stuff. Then we're actually going to skip over Windows 10 and go to BH Institute for Laura to give us an update on what's going on in that. And then we're going to go back to Windows 10 where Lewis is going to give us a brief view of what Windows 10 looks like because that one's liable to spur the most questions. We're going to save him for last. So number one, when Laura approached me about talking to one of these things, she come up with network and data management. It's like, holy moly. There's the possibilities of subject matter are endless within that very small statement. So what I decided to do was to go over some data storage statistics so that we can, look at what our data capacity is, what we're using, that kind of stuff. And keep it interesting so that we don't bore the heck out of everybody. Our current storage environment is the storage hardware consists of 6 iSCSI enclosures. There's 120 hard drives, 48 network connections, draws over 9,100 watts of power. And this is just the Albuquerque office. Each one of the regional offices have one of these individual enclosures themselves, a single enclosure, which has 16 hard drives, 8 network connections, so on and so forth. So they have their own storage environment. Our current storage capacity in the Albuquerque office is 149.97 terabytes. Huge amount of data. 130.54 terabytes is currently being used out of that. That leaves us 18.42 terabytes to live in currently. That includes everything: files, folders, operating systems for virtual servers, our cluster server, everything lives there. Email, everything. The 18.2 terabytes sounds like an awful lot of free space, and it would be if it was on your local drive, but everybody has to live within that. It constitutes about 12% of our total space. So you can see why we're kind of going over this subject. Okay, so what's in the other 88%? Email database. We're going to break it down by some common ones that everybody has interaction with. Our email database size currently is 421 gig. With an average message size of 67K, that's 6,283,582 email messages. That's currently on the email server. That doesn't cover PST files. They're a different subject altogether. On the project drive, there are PST files that are associated with projects. There are exactly 2,717 of them for a total of 91.6 gig. That averages out to 1.367 million messages that are in PST files. Okay, now on the personal side, on your M drives, we have 1.01 terabytes of space being utilized by PST folders. 1,202 files, 15,074,000. It's like, you can see the numbers are staggering. It's like, okay. So this is why I'm sharing this with you. So it's you can understand where we are when we're talking about, can you archive something? We need a little space back. Our Las Cruces had the issue Friday I guess it was. Yeah, their P drive filled up. When that happens, replication stops. Nobody can save anything. So and that this is why we're bringing this down. The M drive current size is 3.87 terabytes. There are 254 folders within that. Number of files, 773,000, just over 773,000 files within that. It takes over 36 hours to do a backup of that volume. Okay, come on. The battery's low on this thing. Okay, replicated data. This affects everybody because it's the Avail replication that replicates our jobs, pre-bills, all that stuff. There's currently, okay, well, it was 0.94 terabytes. Now it's a little bit over 1 because we had another job come in to replicate. So these numbers are as of Sunday. 67 replication jobs that all replicate simultaneously. Over 2.2 million files within that volume there that server has to manage. It takes 10 hours and 39 minutes to do a backup of that. Okay, business development. Now, we all know how business development is very busy, and they've been saving a lot of stuff. Yeah, they have. 1.12 terabytes of space being utilized by business development alone. 211,334 files. And it takes over 18 hours to do a backup on it. Are you tired? Because
I don't know if we're supposed to be proud of this. Or
I know it's impressive either way. How's that? It's like, wow. You realize how long it takes to create 13,000 files? I am exhausted. Okay, so the projects drive. Everybody hits the projects drive. It is currently at 7.31 terabytes. Number of files, 3.8 million files on it. The backup requirements for that, which I deal with 7 days a week. 72 hours and 41 minutes to do a full backup, just the projects folder. The average weekday incremental size of the backup is 144 gig. That's how much data we change in a day. And I have to back all that up. And it runs for 3 3/4 hours every night. So here's our totals. Our total utilized space for files and folders is 88.82 terabytes. Number of files, 32,735,766. A bunch. Okay, here's the backup requirements for the entire environment. Every weekend, it takes 25 backup tapes to back it up. It takes 268 hours and 28 minutes to back that said data up. The total number of hours in a weekend from 8 p.m. Friday to 6 a.m. Monday, 58 hours. There's a problem here. So he wonders, like, well, okay, well, how do we back it up? Well, luckily we have multiple drives. On our primary backup device, we have 4 tape drives that run simultaneously from 8 p.m. on Friday till Tuesday. So you can see where the next slide comes from. So, okay, the key points. We have a lot of data. A lot of data. The cost of big data. Storage hardware. We have to make sure that that hardware has enough capacity to expand. We get a big job in, we have a requirement for a lot of data. We have to make sure that we've got enough breathing room there that we can actually put that in place, spin it up. Next thing is backup expenses. It's required. Each one of those tape drives, each single tape drive was almost $5,000 a piece. So when you start adding them up, plus the backup tapes that go with that, 25 tapes a week, adds up to about $750 a week. Okay? Data management time, that's my time. Like I said, 7 days a week, I deal with this. All the backups, managing the storage and everything, 7 days a week I do that. Here's how we can improve our situation. Some simple points. Archive closed projects. If you have projects out there that are closed, you're not using anymore or anything like that, send us a help ticket. Have us archive that. You can always get it back because we have multiple copies of this data. We can always get it back. But if it's sitting out there on their storage hardware spinning it, it's taking the resources of the storage performance. Once we get to a very small overhead free space in there, the system starts foundering on itself and it starts slowing down. So we get a lot slower response out of it when we click on the projects drive or something. So we ask you that to archive projects that are not being utilized anymore. Cleans up some space, gives us some breathing room. This one's kind of a big one because we get probably one of these requests for every 40 of these requests. We have restored files and folders, projects that are put back on the P drive that are never removed. They're put back on there. You want to look at something that compares to some other project that you're doing, or you have some files in there that you want to get and utilize in your new project. you either leave them in place and utilize them in place, or you copy them over to the other project, and we never get rid of the old files. Unfortunately, with the projects being so large and everything, nobody knows exactly what files they're going to need. So we can restore the whole project. The whole project could be 200 or 300 gig, and you need a small portion of that. Then that 200 or 300 gig is sitting out there spinning on the drives, slowing you down, and taking up all the backup times and everything. Okay. Another thing is clean up personal folders. How many of you have a backup of your old computer 2 computers ago, of your C drive sitting out there? There's several of them. So in your M drive, it's a good place. It's a good repository for dropping stuff in there that's specific to you and things. But every once in a while, kind of take a look at it. See what's in there. If you have a copy of your C drive from 2 computers ago when you had a rebuild or something, probably don't need it. If you do, it's on a backup, I'll guarantee you, hundreds of times. So, hundreds of times, literally. There you go. Yes?
I have a question.
Hey, Phil, you're on.
Oh, sorry.
When you have something like OneDrive or Dropbox that actually saves data up into the cloud, does it make a copy of that on our drives as well? And does that take up storage space?
It depends on what you're actually using. OneDrive for Business, Dropbox. Each one of them have a little bit different settings on it. And one of the things that Microsoft's struggling with, and they haven't really set up yet, is the OneDrive for Business not caching everything on your local drive. You can pick and choose. Ideally, yes, what you want to do is everything, if you're going to put stuff up in the cloud on your drive, whatever it may be out there, you want to be able to pick and choose what you're going to have a local copy of. Right now with Microsoft OneDrive, it's 1 for 1. You have a terabyte of space out there with our new Office 365 subscription, and that terabyte equates to straight on your local computer. But it's not your local computer.
Yeah. So
It's not
the
a
thing about that is even if you did have a local copy of Dropbox stuff, none of the C drives, unless it's specially arranged, are backed up.
So it's on your C drive.
It's on your C drive. It's not on your M drive.
Yeah, it's not sitting on the network. The only thing that appears to be on your C drive that's actually on the network is your My Documents. And because by default a lot of the applications save stuff to My Documents. So what we did was we have a policy in place that it redirects your My Documents from your local drive out to your M drive. You'll see a Documents folder on your M drive. That equates to My Documents. That's the only thing that's actually connected between the two of them. So that inadvertently your computer goes belly up, then you have your My Documents available from there.
We make the assumption that by policy you're not supposed to store anything on your C drive, so we're not gonna to save it or back it up. So
Yeah, the challenge in that respect is its sheer capacity and geography. The capacity of I was looking at the drives that we have out there, and we have about 100 gig of free space out there. I've got a 250 gig hard drive in my Microsoft Surface. I've got more free space than we had on the P drive. Okay, that times 150 times. So now you can see, 4 of them, 4 drives at that size. Now you got a terabyte. Now you multiply that out, and then you have to run all that data that you're going to back up through the network. But you'll never have enough time to be able to back that kind of stuff up. So the policy was set forth not to do the local machines. Keep everything on the network drives that we hit. They're a higher quality drive. They're redundant. If a drive goes bad, it has a parity bit in it that another drive can jump into place there, copy the data sets over, recreate the information, and you're never down. They have multiple power supplies in them. They have uninterruptible power supplies that feed those multiple power supplies, so that it has there's a series of redundancy built into it, and the quality level of a server hardware is exponentially better than a desktop. So it's our policy to simplify things in the respects of not losing your data, is to just get everybody's like, don't keep it on your local machine unless you absolutely have to have it, in which case you run the risk of losing it. Yes?
Who raised their hand?
Carrie.
So my question is about the tape drive backup technology. How old is that technology, and are you considering something new? Is there something out there that's more modern and can serve us into the future?
There is, the current technology we're using is LTO 5 level, which is it's a linear tape writing capability. There is an LTO 6, which doubles the capacity per cartridge, but the investment is in the tape drives at, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a piece for those drives to upgrade that. It's something that you really have to make a conscious decision to budget for that type of stuff. The other side of the coin is that a lot of backup technologies, you hear it all the time, pushing stuff up to the cloud. That's fine if you don't have 149 terabytes of data that you have to manage on a regular basis. Those things, they do have, they're geared more for the smaller environment that the individuals that we run into, like on the EITS side, where our smaller clients don't have that volume of data. They don't have to make a huge investment in a $10,000 tape drive to back up the small amount of data. You can run a different scenario. You can have a device that sits there, backs their stuff up, pushes it up to the cloud, because you don't have an overly large amount of data that has to be managed. So there are various technologies that are in place, but it's a matter of fitting the right one that matches up with your volume and your requirements and your budget that you're actually going to deal with.
So the biggest hindrance here with regard to that technology has a lot to do with the fact that we have to store our archive projects. So if we were some other industry and we were only interested in maybe a 30-day window. So if we had a catastrophic failure, we can have all our data in the cloud, and we'd only have to restore it back from yesterday or from earlier today, or worst case, maybe 30 days from now. But we get requests from 1980 to bring back stuff. So unfortunately, if you need something like that, then the tape technology is still the only way to go.
But how much of the data, the 150 terabytes, is active versus just sitting there, nobody's accessing?
That's a great question.
Do you back up the whole 150 or just the portion that's not?
Well, we do not back up the entire 150 terabytes. We strategically address those areas that change on a regular basis with projects, the M Drive, admin, those kind of things like that. We back those up on a regular basis. We have other ones that are like spatial data projects that we don't back up directly to tape. That we actually do a snapshot within our iSCSI enclosure. We can do a snapshot of it, which is basically make a secondary copy of it on a schedule, so that we have a backup copy of it in case they have a batch file that goes bad and it consumes some of the files. We can actually get those back in a live situation. Then when they're done with the project, of course, we archive it off to tape. So we don't back it all up because we just flat don't have the capacity to do it, and it doesn't make good sense to actually do it anyway. It's just something, you'll back up something and eat up a bunch of tape and time that you're not actually going to realistically ever use.
So with that policy, there is the possibility that somebody hasn't told us that they've added space or they've added a project that is really time sensitive and they need it to be backed up. So we've run into that in the past where people just think the entire place is being backed up. It's impossible to do that. So if you're adding something new and you need to communicate with us to make sure that we know what the requirements are for the backup. So
yeah, now that's true. That's true, especially for the spatial data side of it, because they operate outside of your standard drives. Your standard drive mappings with your PEM drive and the O drive and stuff. All of those ones that you see in the standard drive mappings are backed up at the root level. So anything that you put on, like on the O drive, if you create a folder on the O drive, in the root of the O drive because you want to drop some stuff in there, that's going to be backed up because it's simply the number of people that actually use it on a regular basis. That data will change on a regular basis, and the requirement to get it back is very real. The spatial data side of it, since they have a large data set, we have to work strategically with them and make sure that we understand, number one, what their volume is going to be, whether it's something that they need to have backed up for a long period of time. If it's something that we can just run snapshots on for like 2 weeks, say, okay, if there's something wrong with it, I'm going to notice it within the next few days, and we can get that data back. And so we, on the spatial data side of it, we have to work real closely with them in, if they go into like a share like GS12. GS12 is not backed up generically at the root level because it's 7 terabytes in size. We just not going to we can't back that up. But there are projects within GS12 that are being backed up because they are ones that are volatile. They're a production delivery environment that if it goes south, then you could have some rework that's going to make the project go south. So it's a lot about communication on that and making sure. And I periodically will go back and check with everybody, say, okay, well, these are what I'm backing up. Are we still in alignment? I talk with Juan all the time because he's working on a lot of the projects. So we adjust those backups on a regular basis. Still, we run the risk of missing ones. If somebody just dumps one out there, we do run the risk of missing it. But I know well enough as to where the volumes are that I can see when things change. And if they change in a dramatic amount, I'll ask questions. So, and that's that 24/7 management thing.
Those enclosures, just to give you a sense, I think the oldest ones are about 8 years old, somewhere's around there. They're end of life. So when a manufacturer says that product is end of life, then you have to go to other means to get parts. So we manage that very carefully because that's our mission critical data. So we really don't want to keep a whole lot of those that are end of life. When we first bought those, they were about $45,000 a piece. The price has come down to about $15,000 to $18,000. So it's still significant, but the prices have come down. So over the next few years, we'll have to strategically replace some of those end of life units.
Anything else? Thank you. Yep.
Gracias, amigo. I break into Spanish. Yeah. Did you put my, no, does that thing go? Did you put my link?
Okay.
You did? You think it'll be next?
Oh, no, it's not there.
Oh,
It's actually right there, Beach Institute.
here we go. Okay, so I wanted to take the chance, since AT was making a tech talk, to cover the bases and make sure that everybody's aware of BH Institute and what we're trying to do. And I've talked with all of the group leaders. I've talked with many of you individually about it. And I wanted to just share some information so that everybody's on the same page. And Leslie thought this might be a good place to do that. So I just want to take maybe 5 or 10 minutes, answer any questions that you have. About a year ago, we started focusing on BH Institute and what we could do based on the needs that we saw coming from the perspective of being in support. And I think help tickets give us a unique perspective. And so I was very driven to figure out what can we do to be more proactive, to manage issues in regards to the workforce development. And BH Institute is a structure that we can put in place that will help us address things regarding developing our workforce and moving to a higher level. So that's really what it's all about. And the structure that we've settled in on is rather intuitive. There's several pieces. One is more HR and leadership development, early career development, security, safety, PMO. So those things kind of fell under the HR umbrella. We're a technical company, And so there was one emerging area, the technical area, that we really feel like there were some things that we could do if we had a structure in place to develop our workforce. And so that's the opportunity that I have from the technical side. So our executive sponsors are Leslie and Carrie. And the thing that's encouraging to me about this is that we have, from the leadership, we have a message that this is important. From my perspective, I know it's important because I see things that I know we could be doing more efficiently. I know that our users could be more effective if they could maybe capture some training, or if we can target some areas where we can establish some processes and standardization that would help us all do work better together. So those are our objectives. And the structure, like I say, with Nancy running the HR and the leadership side, and I'm trying to focus on the technical side. My time is spent about half and half. So again, on Nancy's focus, she's really going to concentrate on developing some processes for orientation and onboarding. That's really essential if we're going to bring in people who have the aptitude and the skills that we know that we can work with to bring our workforce up to a level that we can produce work in a really fantastic way. Early career development's another focus that she'll be putting some energy towards, taking young professionals and teaching them what they need to know through mentoring with other experienced engineers and project managers, giving them some business savvy that they don't come out of the college having. That's something that the universities don't teach. So those things are falling under that early career development. All of these are big deals. I mean, it's hard to get something in place. So the whole BH Institute initiative is scalable. We're starting small. We're trying to use the resources that we have. We're trying not to go out and spend a lot of money, but we're trying to focus our energy and target areas that are really common across the company and things that we think are important to the leadership that will help us move forward. Leadership development is another one that falls under Nancy. She's managing the PMO, safety and security, and then external education and conferences as well. So what we're trying to do is have a high-level management system. It's actually called a Managed Learning and Performance Program, so that rather than being reactive, rather than a project manager's request coming in, I need training, my people need this software, or we've got a deliverable, or I'm getting recruits, we're bringing in people that don't have the skill set we need. Rather than that happening to us and then us having to react to it, we're hoping that we can have a high level to see some of this stuff coming and make some strategic plans and figure out some strategies to keep that from hitting us in the back of the head. That's a nice way to say it. And on the technical side, we've got several different focuses, but I can tell you this, and I always come back to this thought, that people cannot be creative and innovative unless they have mastery of the domain in which they work. And so my fundamental focus right now is mastery of the domain. And we have some new things in our environment. Civil 3D is one of them. And I want to be sure that we don't limit our ability to function and provide innovative solutions, but we also have to get to a place where we have mastery of this domain. And right now we're not there. So the technical side, we're going to really focus on skill building, providing resources to the users so that users can self-manage and go out and find the resources that they need to get better at what they do. One of the things we know about Civil 3D in the industry is that there are not people out there. This is not an environment where you can hire someone who has experience and can do the things that we need to do in our environment. It's something that we're going to have to make that investment. And I think our leadership realizes that. And like I say, this is a structure that's going to help us move forward because we're going to develop our workforce. And what that means to our people and our staff and our employees is that, you know, the sky is the limit if you are so moved to be a part of this. And so I'm excited about the resources that they've committed to this. One of them is an online learning program. And like I say, I don't want to be too focused on Civil 3D, but right now that is the most common challenge for us in this environment for a lot of different reasons. But again, skill building is the bottom line. Part of that is Autodesk certifications. We've talked to most of the groups about this. And being certified in the software that you use on a daily basis is only a good thing. When you think about the credential that it gives you to say, I have this level of knowledge with the software that I use every day. And in IT, that's a no-brainer. Our guys are all Microsoft certified at different levels because that's what's required in their industry. And I think if we want to lead as far as putting this out there for something that we can talk about in our proposals, something that the industry, I believe, is going to come around and require, I think we can get ahead of it if we start thinking about it now and really focusing on how we can put some people in place who are Autodesk certified. It makes a lot of sense. And so we've got software in place to help people with that. And exams, we've got discounts that the resellers will give to us if we take a bunch at the same time. So that's something that I'll be reaching out to the group so that we can collaborate and figure out when. I think February is the target date. And so we'll try to give you some more information about that. The other piece that has emerged is technical workflows. And you know, we spent a lot of time years ago when En-ROADS came on the scene. I've heard that Beth Benham was dedicated full-time to working on En-ROADS workflows and getting those documented. And we don't have that luxury anymore. We don't have workflows that we can hand out to the engineers and say, here's the software, which you've never seen in college, and here's a workflow on how to get this done. We don't have that. So again, that's another focus, and this is a huge task, but we're going to try to take it a thing at a time. And my goal is conservatively to get 2 processes in place by the end of the fiscal year. And then next year, we'll begin to train to those. So we'll have something in place that we can train new users with in the following year. So it'll build on itself. I want to show you just real briefly on our, let's see, where is it? We're in the middle of changing this training and career development page, so it's all going to look like the slide that you just saw. But I did want to share with you, if you were to go to this today on the training and career development, there's a new link called CAD Learning, and it will take you to this website, which is a subscription that we've purchased for online training. And it's a huge resource. And one of the exciting things about it, when we went to renegotiate our prior contract for e-learning, we found this solution, and it's really a good product. And one of the things that we have that we didn't have before is everybody has access. So if you have a BHI email, we don't have to decide who can get on. Everybody can access this website from any level. So it's web-based. If you're at home and you want to, or you're in the grocery store line and you want to just watch a video, there's a lot of resources here. If you don't understand how Revit works and you want to know something about Revit, you could just browse to this and see videos. You can see ebooks. So again, it's like having a resource library that we didn't have before, and all of our users are eligible to go on and create an account. So you just go here to create new account, and it'll set it up based on your email address, and then you can browse through the products that we have access to. So we had to choose, I mean, there's a myriad of products, and we had to choose what we thought would be the most useful to our group now. So we've got AutoCAD, AutoCAD Civil 3D, MEP, 3ds Max, which is something that business development is starting to use quite a lot, Revit Structured, Navisworks, and then there's a link for ebooks as well. And some of those ebooks are just product information about the coming versions. And so if you want to know what's different in 2016, you can go on and look at that. And the caveat is that you need to have a relationship with your supervisor so they know that if you're charging to training, you've made arrangements to do that. But this is a resource outside of that parameter that If you want to see a video, there's many videos that are 3-4 minutes long, and they're very targeted, so you can search a specific subject in a specific software and get the information that maybe you're looking for. So one of the things that, as far as the structure goes, that I wanted to share is that we're restructuring the training team. So we have a multi-level team approach, and part of that is the workforce development group leads. So we went to every group and we asked who is a person in the group that we can make contact with, Nancy and I, on a quarterly basis so that we can come to you and ask what are the needs of your group? What are the biggest challenges? What are the opportunities that you're not able to take advantage of that maybe you could if something was different? So we're in the process of making our way through that. We're meeting with the leads now. And then on another level, we're working on building a team of technicians and technical people that will help us with some of these processes that we want to get in place. So again, different structures. I wanted everybody to just have a good overview of what we're trying to do. And if you have any questions, contact Nancy or I. And the training lab is up and running upstairs. We have software in there, machines set up so that if you do want to come in and do an online thing, you can. So use that as a resource. And if you have any questions, send them our way. And we'll be making contact with those of you who we haven't, we will be. So look forward to that. We do. Okay. Any questions? Cruises? No? Kevin?
So I know you had mentioned, like, on the IT side, I mean, we more or less require certifications.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, on the BH engineering side of things, is this more or less a volunteer type thing? Or is the project manager or group leaders, obligated to require their people to do certain things? Or is it mainly just a volunteer, I want to better myself, so I'm going to do this?
Right. That's a great question. And since we're trying to keep this scalable, I will tell you that right now we're asking on a voluntary basis, we're providing the resource, and we're hoping that our workforce will have that characteristic that those people will emerge and realize this is a credential that I need and it's worth the investment. Just like someone getting their PE, they study for that. They put a lot of effort and energy into that. So we are presenting it on a voluntary basis right now, and that's what we're hoping, that by the end of the year we'll have 5 or more users certified. Pam and I are talking about that. It's something on our radar. I think it's necessary. But right now, yes, it is voluntary. The company has approved, and Lewis can probably speak to this, but we have gotten incentives approved so that if someone goes out and does get certified, there's help as far as the test. You can get reimbursed for the cost of the test, which is pretty minimal. If we do it as a group, it's about $50. And then there's also an incentive for those who pass the exams, and they can get, a little cash incentive back from the company. So I think hopefully that will help with the voluntary thing. But another thing that we're looking at as far as in the future, we're having a hard time right now recruiting and bringing people in who have a known level of knowledge in Civil 3D. And so this is a tool that we can use on our recruiting, onboarding process to require it. And then we know when they come in that if they say they're an AutoCAD Civil 3D professional, that they have a level or a command of the software. So I think it's something that in the future you'll see used as a tool. Anything else? Okay.
So we have just under 15 minutes left, and there was a reason why I wanted to go last, because Windows 10, let's switch.
Are you going to?
Because Windows 10 is not something we're going to deploy here in our environment, probably until maybe December of next year, sometime next year. it's a balance between new technologies that come out and whether we can use them or not, whether they're compatible with that's why we've been on Office for 2010 for such a long time, and now we're gonna leapfrog over 13 and go right to 16, and that tentatively is gonna happen in October. Things that we're concentrating on right now, instead of going to Windows 10, are things like an upgrade to our HR software, and one of the bigger projects was to replace our firewall, because the firewall we were using was end of life as well, and we were having trouble with it. So we'll concentrate on Windows 10 coming up. But when we were doing these tech talks, there has been a lot of questions about Windows 10 and how it's different and what's different, and maybe we could get into some question and answers, because unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, when you buy a new computer, this is what you're going to get, okay? So I did want to cover a couple of things. If you have Windows 10 at home, how you set up a VPN, how you find things, just really quick. I know that there's several questions, but this is what Windows 10 looks like. How many people have Windows 10 at home? Okay, just a couple of people. How many people have Windows 8? Okay, a few more. The difference between Windows 10 and Windows 8 is very subtle, okay? I know there was a lot of complaints about Windows 10. The biggest complaint was the Start menu, which now appears down here. I think 8.1 turned that on, but Windows 10 has it. And the fact that on Windows 8 you would come over here to the side and this thing would pop out, that's gone. So the Start menu looks a little different. You have these tiles, which you can add if you like or not. It's just a different way to get to the programs that you get to most often. Or you have a list of most used programs. Or if you want to see all your apps, you can now see all the apps, similar to the way Windows 7 used to look, so you can get to them there. The biggest thing that Windows 10 wants you to know is there's a unified search, and the search is pretty good. So if you want to find Word, you just start typing what you want, and it pops it up. It's really good about finding the apps that you want. If you want to get to the Start menu in general, you know, it's all about the search. If you want to find a file, same thing. So real quick, this is the task bar, and this is the start bar. If you want something to appear, you right-click on it, and you can pin or unpin from the taskbar, or pin or unpin from the start bar, okay? So that's how, and depending on the application and how it was written, may not be Windows 10 aware. When in the old days, you would always get a desktop icon. That's not going to be the case anymore. By default, it's not going to create a desktop icon. So if you want to search for it, a lot of times you'll come in here and it just won't exist. And it's like, I installed the program. I know I did. You know, it's like, well, you just start typing it in and it comes up. You know, that's how you find it. And then you can right-click on it and pin it. And that way you can get to it by default. So the File Explorer looks a little different as well. You have a couple of default views. So you have frequent folders that show up at the top, and then you have recent files that show up at the top, in the bottom pane. And then you have these quick access. You can modify and add things to the quick access if you want to go to your documents or your desktop easily. If you have Dropbox is Windows 10 aware, so it will create a quick access link for you. The OneDrive will do the same. OneDrive for Business is a hybrid. It sometimes shows up, it sometimes doesn't. They've got to figure it out, which is weird because it's a Microsoft product. Dropbox works much better. It knows about Windows 10 a lot easier. So this is where your PC is. So if you want to get to your C drive directly, they'll show up here with all the red that you see on our network. So that's how you get to your resources, either by clicking the PC. For those who used to know how to get to what's on my machine, there's not really a good way to do that. So you can right-click on your PC and go to Properties, and then you'll start seeing some similarities as to, oh, I remember what that looked like. You know, here's all my device managers information. Some people got into this. This looks exactly like Windows 7. So you just get to it a different way. So everything is there. You just get to it a different way. If you want to set up a VPN, you have these icons on the bottom. So something that they took away, which drives me nuts, I used to like to have all my running programs available. So you used to be able to come in here and say, show me them all. You can't do that anymore. So the ones that you most use will show up. If you want to get to other ones, you hit the up arrow. And here's like where the OneDrive is and some of your other ones. So depending on your resolution will determine how many you have here. But you'll either have a little computer icon, or if you're connected to Wi-Fi like my machine is upstairs, you'll see the little Wi-Fi signal. So if you click once on it, you'll get a new interface. And this is what it looks like and how you connect to wireless networks. So it comes up and it lists all the wireless networks that you have available to you, and you can connect to it, okay? If you want to do airplane mode, you very simply just turn that on. I'm not going to do it because I'll cut myself off. But that's how you do it. So it's there, it's easy, it's more user-friendly, I guess. If you didn't know how to do it the other way, it's a lot nicer to do it this way. If you want to get to the old way, you can right-click and then open your network sharing center, and voila, it looks just like Windows 7. Okay, so all the stuff that you used to know how to do is still there. So you want to set up a new network connection for VPN, you can do it this way. Okay, or you can come over here and you can go to settings, which is right here. And this is the Windows 10 version of how to get to all that stuff. Okay, so here's the network and internet. And here's all your wireless, so you can connect to it there. So you can see that you can go in circles with some of this stuff. They spent over $1 billion trying to figure out what the easiest way to access the most common things that people want to access. So they rewrote the UI. Luckily for those of us who are old, they kept the old stuff. So you just need to understand how to get there. I know that was really quick. I want to answer some questions. We don't have that much time left. You got some questions?
Can you launch Internet Explorer? Because I saw some.
Oh, okay. So Windows 10 has two versions of the Internet Explorer, okay? They have the conventional Internet Explorer, which looks like the normal E, or they have this funky looking E, which is like Chrome, basically. So this version of the E is not compatible with BST, okay? So it doesn't use the ActiveX. So if you have a website, and they tried to have a redirect, so if you're in this one and this is what it wants you to be in, and you get to a site that has ActiveX, it'll say, this doesn't work, would you like to open it up in the other one? That works like 40% of the time. So I've been using Windows 10 for several years. I hardly ever use this Internet Explorer. So I always use this one, which looks just like ours. So was there something else you wanted to see?
What was the Edge? When you hover over that other E, what is it called?
It's Microsoft Edge.
Microsoft Edge.
It's the new Explorer
Okay.
that Microsoft created. It's supposed to be faster, it's supposed to be more intuitive. I don't like it, but
Well,
go
one
ahead.
of the things that they
Get
added
the-
to the Edge was, you see one of the things they added in Edge, right below the GoToMeeting taskbar on the top, you see all those annotation type things? Within Edge, you can actually go and highlight stuff, circle stuff within a browser, cut and paste it, and send it to somebody and say, hey, look at this, and they're pulling up the website with your annotations on it. Instead of writing a big long email saying, hey, check out this website, and paragraph 3, highlight, all that kind of stuff. So they're trying to make it more feature-rich that you can share and collaborate via websites. I've never used it before, but that's what it's there for. That's what that part is. That was a big feature that they tried to do. And if your computer has a microphone, you can actually talk to Cortana in the search, and she'll search for you.
So just like your phone, if your computer has you can say, what's the stock price on Microsoft, and Cortana will find it for you.
Yeah, one of the things, went to the Microsoft Ignite conference earlier this year, and I sat in on a session about Edge, and their description of what Edge is it is a new browser that cuts off all of the old antiquated software that was required to run the current versions of Internet Explorer. Basically, Microsoft invented Internet Explorer because there wasn't a way to browse the internet, but it required some of those pieces of software, like Lewis was talking about the ActiveX and things. It required those pieces to be backwards compatible for years. What they're attempting to do in this response is to cut off that backwards compatibility stuff with the really, really old software that was required to run. That really old software is full of holes. It has a lot of security problems. What they're attempting to do is cut that off, much like years ago with the HD TV and the analog signal. Separate the two. Don't bring forward those things that are problematic, which gives it the security issues that they've had over a period of time. So that's why they've introduced Edge, but because they don't have the control of the world, basically, you would think they did, but they don't. They can't govern everybody's website, require them absolutely to be Edge compatible and stuff. So they have Internet Explorer 11, which is much more secure than any of the previous versions, so that it cuts down on the amount of problems that they have, even though they can run backwards compatibility.
That was GoToMeeting stuff.
Oh.
On the Edge.
I was like, why doesn't that go away?
On the Edge, on the right, there you go. No, down. There you go. There's the pad and stuff I was talking about. That you can highlight stuff. And then you see the little circle with the 3 dots, that's the sharing and all that. Sorry.
I don't know how to delete that, so now we're gonna have to deal with it.
Somebody call IT.
Just don't use GoToMeeting.
Are there any other questions about Windows 10 on the Surface?
I have one question.
Sure.
So we're all getting on our home PCs the little pop-up of you qualify, to upgrade to Windows 10 for free.
Yes.
Should we be doing that?
Yes. So Windows 10 is here to stay. When Microsoft is allowing for a limited time a free upgrade to that, might as well do the free upgrade. It's hard for me to judge. I don't have a problem with changing OSs. So for me, it's like, it's not a big deal. For some, it drives them nuts. So that would be the only thing. If you really don't like change and you really don't want to know how to learn how to get to your program, then that would be an issue. But when Windows 7 or whatever version you have goes into life, it becomes a security issue. So you're going to have to upgrade. You might as well upgrade while it's free. That's my opinion. So, yes, I would upgrade. Anything else? It's pretty straightforward upgrade too. So you just follow the prompts and it'll save all your work. It won't destroy it. You have a choice as to which way you want to upgrade. But if you choose the natural upgrade, everything will be there when you return. So it takes several hours, but it works. It will, if you have a really old piece of hardware, Windows 10 will run on it better than whatever you have on it currently.
Oh, it will.
Yep.
Oh, that was really my question.
Yes.
You should ask your real question.
No, it's a lot more efficient. It was kind of designed for that purpose, which is in direct contrast with the hardware manufacturers because they always want you to buy new hardware. But Windows 10 will extend the life of your old hardware. Run much nicer. Anything else? Okay. We went 5 minutes over, sorry.